further explanation to pursue after that. But anyway, I did tear my ACL, and I remember sitting in the doctor's office that next morning and having a very serious conversation and hearing him say that there's a high percentage that I would not be able to compete in the Olympics due to this injury. And I remember at 17 years old crying and thinking, why all of this work that I've done, and God, wasn't it your purpose for my life to become an Olympian and be able to swim in the Olympics? And this kind of, my whole life was shattered at that point. And luckily, or thank God, that swimming actually turns out to be a pretty good method of rehab for a torn ACL. And I actually took it easy in workout and still swam a lot, and it surprised the doctor at how quickly I had recovered and was able to go back into full training the last couple of weeks and was able to compete in my first Olympics in Sydney. And that was another wake-up call for me to remember my true purpose was to glorify God and not just to get a check in the box of being an Olympian. And it kind of brought me back to Him and focused on Him again. And my last little encounter happened just last summer, actually. Being from the Bahamas, like I said, love to fish, love to go out and be in the water, and I was able to go and visit my brother who lives on one of the islands in the Bahamas, and we just do a lot of spear fishing. We'd spear fish all day. We kind of just drift from reef to reef and you know, compile a whole lot of fish, and then we'd feast that night. But this happened where we were out there for a while, and you know, we always kind of spear in groups, and over time we kind of spread out more and more, and I kind of found myself kind of a little bit further away from the rest of the guys that I would have liked, and the kind of spotting boat would just kind of move from person to person, keep an eye on everybody, and I saw a nice sized hog snapper. These things you don't see very often. They're really, really good to eat. So I got excited and kind of followed it down there to the reef and took a shot at it and hit it, and it kind of went under a rock in one of those reefs, and I kind of took a second to notice where it was and where it went, and had my spear in it, so I was definitely going back for it, and just kind of checked where it was before I head up to the surface. And as soon as I kind of lifted my head to head to the surface, good sized 6-foot reef shark was heading right for me, and so you know, I feel like I had enough experience growing up to know not to panic, and so I kind of started kicking away from it as I headed up to the surface, and kept coming and kept coming. I remember thinking again, I have all these moments of thought in the midst of all these encounters, but I remember thinking as I was looking at the shark coming straight for me, it's like, this is the camera view that they show in movies when the shark is attacking people. But anyway, it kept coming, and right before I got to the surface, it was there, and I literally had to kick it away with my fin before it kind of darted off and headed off in another direction, and I kind of saw it started circling around a little bit, and by that time I was on the surface, and I kind of waved my hand, the boat came over, I jumped in the boat very quickly, and needless to say, we kind of moved on from that reef. But you know, and really, I wasn't as scared at that moment as it kind of seems. You know, kind of try to stay in control in that moment. But it was a kind of a scary moment to be face to face with a shark like that, and that was another moment in my life where God had told me that it's not your time yet. He has bigger things and more things planned for me in my life, and I'm sure I have more of those to come, and I accept them under His grace. And moving on to more what I want to talk to you guys tonight is that the whole swimming thing, being a three-time Olympian and whatever else you know I've accomplished as a swimmer, is the thing that allows me to stand up here and be able to talk to you guys with as somebody with credibility. But as I look back on my swimming career, those accomplishments, the gold medals and the you know, number of meets I've gone to and this and that are not the reason that God gave me the talent to be able to swim. I'm continually reminded on nights like this that the reason that God has given me the talent to swim and given me the accomplishments to do that in swimming is to give me the platform to stand up here and speak to you guys tonight. And I honestly feel that God has a message that He wants you guys to hear tonight, and I feel that I am simply the vessel that He wants to speak through, to speak to you guys tonight, which leads me to my next point. I listened onto the radio a couple weeks ago, and Chuck Swindoll was giving a sermon, and he said something that will always stick with me and kind of comfort me for things like this. I'm not the best public speaker, and I mess up from time to time. And he said this. He said, "The power is not in the messenger, but in the message." And that kind of comforted me to know that I can come up here and I can mess up the notes that I have on this piece of paper, and I might not have the clearest delivery in the world, but that is not God's plan. God has a message that He wants to portray to you guys tonight, and that's going to happen no matter what. So what I'm saying is, it's not about me tonight. I want you to listen to me as what Jeremy has to say. I want you to hear what God has to speak to you tonight about. Tonight, I want to talk to you about friends. I want to talk to you about what kind of friend you consider yourself to be, and what kind of friend you expect to have, or friends. Again, just last night on the radio, and honestly, if I had heard this probably a couple weeks ago, I may have talked to you about something slightly different. And I'll leave the number one thing on this list for maybe your youth pastors to cover a little later. But the DJ on one of the Christian radio stations was giving a list about the number one influences in a teenager's life. And parents would probably be a little more interested in this than the teenagers in this room. But all the way back at number 25, and I don't know how far back they went. It may have started at 25, may have gone back to 50 or even 100. But back at number 25 was Dad. I'm less than a month away from being a dad myself, and that's kind of it broke my heart to think that dads are losing their influence on teenagers in this culture, in this day and age. And honestly, I don't think it's much of the fault of the teenagers. It's much of the fault of the busy dads that have too much work to do than to tell their son or their daughter that they love them and to throw the ball in the backyard or whatever it may be. But we fell back down to number 25. Moms, you did a little better. Number 11. Number 11 on that list. Both parents for teenagers influence didn't even make the top 10. The top 10 things that influence the teenagers are not in the home. That kind of blew my mind. And again, if I got this a couple weeks later, we'd be talking all night about influences that you guys have. And number 2 is what we're talking about tonight. Number 2 is your friends, your peers. Teenagers all over the country have said that the number 2 biggest influence in their lives is their peers, what their friends say and do. And number 1, you might guess, being on a radio station, is the lyrics to songs that they listen to. And I don't want to go too much into it because we're talking about number 2 tonight, but in a nutshell, guys, it's very, very, very important what you allow yourselves to listen to. If it's not glorifying God, you need to question yourself why you're listening to that music. Do not let yourself be deceived by being naive and saying, I like it because of the beats. I like it because it's popular. It just sounds good. It's not true. DJ said that same night that in our lifetime we memorize, or we are able to remember, over 2,000 songs through our life. You imagine the amount of songs you allow yourself to listen to. You're going to remember 2,000 sets of lyrics from the songs that you listen to.